Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
All right. Well, today we're going somewhere a little unexpected.
Oh,
Ancient rituals,
okay.
specifically from the book of Leviticus.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I know what you're thinking. Ancient instructions for animal sacrifice. What's that got to do with me?
Right.
But stick with us, okay? Because we're going to find some pretty surprising connections to the way we live now.
I'm intrigued.
Okay. So, Leviticus chapter 3.
Okay.
It lays out this thing called the peace offering, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of several offerings described. And basically, yeah, it involved sacrificing an animal,
I see.
but it's not just any animal. And there were very specific instructions. Had to be a bull, sheep, or goat
Uh,
without a single blemish.
that blemish-free part, that's interesting. Like, it had to be the best, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that idea of, like when you're trying to find the perfect gift for someone,
Right.
you want it to be meaningful.
Yes. They had to give the best. It wasn't just going through the motions.
And it seems like that was important to them back then, even in their interactions with the divine.
Absolutely. And then there's this ritual element, too.
Okay.
The laying on of hands.
Oh,
Yeah, the person making the offering would actually put their hands on the animal's head before it was sacrificed.
I gotta admit, this is where it starts to feel a little too ancient ritual for me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, what was the point of the hands?
It's about transference. Like, they're imbuing the offering with their own, I don't know, hopes and desires or whatever, creating a connection between themselves and the act.
So it's not just a physical act.
No.
It's like a deeply personal thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Then it gets even more specific.
Oh!
So they would burn specific parts of the animal, the fat and the kidneys on the altar.
Hmm.
But then the rest was shared, eaten as a meal together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So why those parts? Why not the prime cuts we'd go for today?
It's all about the cultural context, right? Back
Mhm.
then, fat and blood were seen as the essence of life.
The most vital parts.
Exactly.
So they were offering the very life force of the animal.
That's the idea. Acknowledging the sacredness of life itself. It's a way of saying, look, we recognize that life is precious, and we offer this as a symbol of our gratitude.
It's a lot deeper than I initially thought.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just burning random parts of an animal.
Yeah.
It's about symbolism. It's about intention.
Yeah, right.
Connecting with something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And then, of course, you've got the shared meal.
Oh, right.
And that's not just about getting a free lunch. It was about community, fellowship, both with God and with each other.
It's funny how food plays such a big role in so many different cultures and religions.
It's a universal language.
Yeah.
Sharing a meal, it creates connection, belonging.
Okay, so we're seeing some themes here. Gratitude, reverence, connection.
Yes.
But how does this translate to our modern lives? I mean, we're not sacrificing animals anymore.
Right, but that's the great thing about these ancient rituals. The specifics change, but the underlying principles, the values, they remain relevant.
So we need to figure out, what are the modern day equivalents of these rituals? How do we express those same values, gratitude, reverence, connection in our world today?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's what we're going to explore next. We'll look at some specific examples and see how these ancient principles can actually be applied to our everyday lives.
All right. I'm ready for it.
So thinking about modern life, if offering the best of what you had was so important back then, how does that translate now?
Well, it makes me think about how we approach things today.
Yeah.
Our work, relationships, even just our creative pursuits. It's about striving for excellence,
Yeah.
putting our best foot forward, not just settling.
It's about being present, fully engaged.
Yeah.
Like the offering had to be the best. Remember?
Without blemish, yeah.
So our efforts today, they should reflect that desire to contribute something meaningful, right? To whatever it is we're doing.
Not just going through the motions.
Exactly.
Speaking of bringing our whole selves, what about that laying on of hands thing? Is there a modern version of that?
It is a fascinating ritual, isn't it? That physical connection, the intention behind it. I think in a way we do this today with mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
You mean like meditation and stuff?
Yeah. Bringing our full attention to what we're doing, whatever it is.
So instead of laying hands on an animal,
Mm-hmm.
we're laying our attention on the present moment.
Yes. Recognizing that each experience is sacred, no matter how small.
Okay.
And just like that ritual, it allows us to connect more deeply with ourselves and the world around us.
All right, that makes sense. Now, what are the shared meal part?
Oh, yeah.
We talk about how it's a symbol of peace and fellowship. Do we still have things like that today?
All the time.
Yeah.
Family dinners, gatherings with friends, even just grabbing coffee with a coworker.
Right.
Those are all chances to connect, share stories, build community.
It's funny how something as simple as a meal together can be so powerful.
Right. It breaks down barriers, creates intimacy.
Yeah.
It's primal, really. We've been sharing food since, well, forever. It nourishes our bodies and our souls.
So every time I have lunch with a friend,
Uh-huh.
it's like a modern-day peace offering.
Well, maybe not
Oh,
exactly,
yeah.
but there's a connection there. It's about coming together,
Yeah.
sharing something, acknowledging our shared humanity.
And it's not just about the food.
Yeah.
It's the conversation, the laughter, the experience.
Exactly. Creating space for connection, for belonging.
So we've got gratitude, reverence, connection. What about those last two themes, generosity and obedience? How do those fit in?
Well, generosity in the context of the offering, it was about giving back, right? Recognizing that we have a lot to be thankful for.
Right.
Today, that can take so many forms.
Yeah.
Volunteering, donating, just helping someone out who needs it.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected and we all have something to give.
Yes.
And obedience.
Yeah.
It seems a bit trickier to apply nowadays.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like blindly following rules. It doesn't quite fit.
But think about it in the context of the peace offering, right? It was about acknowledging a higher order, principles that guided their actions.
So less about rules and more about aligning ourselves with values we believe in.
Exactly. Ethical guidelines in our work, personal values, even respecting nature.
Yeah.
It's about that balance between our own freedom and the fact that we're all part of something bigger.
That's pretty deep. So basically we're saying, even though we don't do these rituals literally today, the ideas behind them are still super important.
They are. They really are. And it's not just like these abstract ideas either. They can have a real impact on how we live.
Okay, so how do we actually apply them? It's easy to talk about it, but how do we make it, real?
It's about being more intentional with our actions or choices, like asking ourselves, how can I be more grateful in this moment? Or am I approaching this with respect? Or even, how can I help build a sense of community here?
So it's about looking for those little moments, those everyday chances to live out these values.
Exactly. Little things, infusing our daily lives with meaning.
I see how it all connects now. Those ancient rituals, they weren't just about, pleasing some god.
No.
They're about a whole way of life, right? Living in harmony with yourself, with other people, with the world. And even though we don't do them exactly the same way, those principles, they still matter.
Absolutely. And here's something to think about.
Yeah.
If those rituals were about aligning yourself with something bigger, some kind of purpose, what do we have today that does that?
That's a great question. And I think it's different for everyone, too.
For sure. It's about finding those things that connect us to something deeper. Give us meaning. Could be anything, really. Meditation, family time, volunteering, even just taking a moment to appreciate nature.
It's the intention that matters, right?
Yeah.
Choosing those things on purpose and really being present.
Yes. Creating our own modern rituals, ones that nourish us and help us live better lives.
This has been amazing. Who knew we'd find so much wisdom in ancient rituals, right? It just shows you, even though times change, we're still searching for those same things, connection, meaning, purpose. And those old practices, they can help us find those things today.
Well said. Well, that wraps up another fascinating deep dive.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, there's always more to discover. Until next time, keep diving.